Hey guys, we're starting our video.
Hi guys, welcome to Stay at Home with Chocolate. I'm Karen Neugebauer, the owner and master chocolatier of Forte Chocolates. Welcome to my store. And today we're going to talk about what makes for a great and beautiful truffle. We've got some truffles down here to give you a little preview of what we will be talking about. Be sure to DM us along the way if you've got any questions and comments. I'd love to know what they are. And yeah, let's learn what makes for a great truffle. I've got Waverly here doing our camera work, but otherwise we're nice and alone and social distancing. So thank you again for staying at home right now. We all need to just get through this and let's learn a little as we go. So we're going to talk about truffles. We've got our case here of truffles. We've got traditional dipped truffles here. And this is a bonbon or a square kind of truffle. And then we've got moved on to our domed truffles. And these are all molded. And you can see that they have lots and lots of color. Aren't they beautiful? So what makes for a great truffle? Well, there's a few things that I always look for. Number one is always taste. The flavor is paramount. It could be the weirdest looking truffle in the world, but if the flavor and the taste are nailed, it's a great truffle. Number two is beauty. We feast first with our eyes, right? So beauty is really important. Number three, texture. We all want a beautiful texture in our mouth, and sometimes we want to be surprised by the texture as well. Number four, craftsmanship. It should look like a work of art, not student work or just thrown together. And last but not least, in fact it's very important, is shelf life. All of those, so high five, those 5 different things is what I look for when designing a good and a great truffle. Okay, so let's start with the first one, flavor. Okay, so flavor is one of those things that no matter how hard you work at it, you will not get it right unless you understand the balancing act that comes along with the flavors in chocolate itself. So my tip to you, eat a lot of chocolate. Not just your chocolate, but chocolate from all over. And we're talking craft chocolate, we're talking couverture chocolate, we're talking fake or coating chocolates. Try them all and kind of see what you are attracted to, what you like, what flavors jump out at you. That's really important because just because a chocolate is wonderful by itself, it may not be what you're looking at for pairing wise. So you kind of got to understand what each of the different chocolates do. Does it have a front? Does it have a middle? Does it have an end? All of these things sound familiar when you're talking about chocolate tasting, right? You cannot forget about all of those qualities when you're talking about flavor of a truffle. So then, let's taste our butter. Let's taste our cream. When was the last time you tasted cream straight out of the bottle? Or just a scoop of a little butter? Butter is wonderful when it's melted and poured on things, but you rarely eat it just by itself. I know I don't do that very often, but it's important because the quality of your butter or the quality of your cream will be seen in the truffle. So if you want to work with other elements to make the ganache, and a ganache is the center of the truffle for those who aren't as familiar, You can use things a little less traditional, like egg yolk. A good healthy fat is usable as well. Coconut cream is another one. So lots of different ways. You can even do water truffle, but taste your water, guys. All the waters taste different. So please taste all your ingredients. Now, let's taste them together, one at a time. Before you ever make a ganache, take your chocolate, non-melted. Take your butter or your cream or your coconut oil, take them together. Don't mix them up, just kind of spoon them, put them in your mouth and see what it tastes like. That will give you a shortcut before you invest all that time and money, let's face it, making a ganache. So then if you're gonna add any flavors to it, go ahead and taste the flavors with it too, such as, are you adding, I don't know, a jam to it, or peppermint, or a rum, or any sort of nuts. Go ahead and just taste the bulk flavor. And then that will give you a good indication of what direction you want to go, because not everything works together, and it may be wonderful on its own, but not so much when you put it together. So also keep in mind your end result. For instance, we're working on a coffee truffle, a mocha truffle. So we are pairing up with a local coffee company to design the perfect mocha truffle. So we went to their tasting house and we did a coffee cupping. And we can't just say, oh, we want to put coffee in milk chocolate and it's going to be wonderful. It doesn't work that way. You have to taste the coffees with the chocolates. You have to decide what your final result is going to be, so you have like a roadmap of how to get there. Okay, so it's a lot of fun, and you make some friends along the way too. So it's really cool. All right, so taste as you go, and then only then, when you have a couple of good varieties that you think is going to work, then you can move on to the actual making of the ganache. Now, just because you make a really good tasting ganache doesn't mean it's going to last and be shelf stable, and we'll talk about that in the end as well. So moving on, the second one is beauty. We feast first with our eyes, right? I mean, look at these things. Can we, yeah, let's scoot up on them. So like this one here is, can you guess? It's lemon pepper. It's yellow, right? So we have a good indication. Color really gives us an indication. We have right here our Chambord. It's a raspberry liqueur, so it makes sense that it's red. On this one, we have pistachio. Now there's a little bit of a surprise because it also has some cherry in it. So the color is a really good indication of what the flavor might be. So if I were to have, say, a purple or blue truffle, you might think the blue fruits like fig or blueberry, or maybe even a huckleberry jelly. That sort of thing works really good with the blues and purples. But if I throw in, say, an apple, it's gonna confuse you a little bit. So it's gonna have a disconnect between what the flavor is and what you thought that it might be. So steer clear of that. Okay, so color also is a great indicator of how vibrant the flavor is going to be. So if you have a very vibrant color, you're gonna want a very vibrant flavor, not a muted one, okay? So when you're talking about beauty, color is one element. Are you having an artistic palette kind of moment? So if you see these, they are all different artistic impressions. We've got some splatter, we have some solid color, we have some half and half color. So all of that kind of sets you apart and tells you what's going to happen. It also makes it a lot more interesting for the consumer. So this one is half and half, which is kind of neat, and to us it symbolizes our partnership with a local brewery that we have. We actually donate some of the profits directly to a cause MS, multiple sclerosis, when we sell any of the products with beer in it. So that partnership is symbolized in the color representation that we do on the truffle, which is pretty cool too. So we've got our color. We've got a thing called shine. Is it shiny? Let's take a look at them again. Are they shiny? Can you see a reflection? Some people think that we shellac or lacquer or do some sort of spray on top of them. Nope, this is just preparing the mold correctly. So it's really important that you get the shine. So even on these, where they're dipped, they're gonna be matte. But when you have a transfer like this, it's a cocoa butter transfer on an acetate, you're gonna have some shine, which you can see more clearly on these. See how shiny they are, which is nice and good. Okay, so the shine is really important because people really like to know that you know what you're doing. So if you say have a nice shiny truffle and a big old fingerprint in the middle of it, they're gonna be turned off, right? And they haven't even tasted it yet. So all of those are really, really important. The shape of it is part of the beauty. If you have a misshapen, molten kind of rocky formation and the rest of them are beautiful squares, something's a little off, right? So what it looks like in the shape matters. You're also gonna wanna keep the size in cue with what you're doing. So if you were to say make a truffle as big as say this award here from the Northwest Chocolate Festival, it'd be really hard to bite, right? It'd be hard to bite this. And it might be a little too much in your mouth at once. So that would not make a good truffle shape. It's just too big. It makes a great Easter bunny maybe, but because kids like gnawing on the ears. But no, we don't want to make a truffle that isn't a good shape. So instead we chose a shape that is going to be a 2-bite wonder. So it's easy to hold, easy to get a lot of great flavor from it, but not so much that you get full before you're done. You shouldn't need a fork to eat good chocolate either, guys. So keep them small. It also keeps your cost in line as well. So leave them wanting a little bit more, which is ideal. All right, so the next we've got is texture, right? Texture, texture, texture. Wow, I cannot say enough about texture. When I taste first, I taste for flavor. The second bite, I always taste for texture. Sometimes I reverse it. But, so texture is so important because when you take a bite of your truffle and you see teeth marks, it's wonderful. That means your ganache has some body to it, which is good. What you don't want to see is it just kind of oozing away from you. That's got a lot of corn syrup in it, or glucose, or one of those sugars that just basically takes up space and makes it oh so sickeningly sweet. So it's done to reduce costs. So anytime you have an oozing truffle, one that the ganache has no body to it, stay away. It's not good. It's going to be overly sweet, and frankly, it's about the chocolate, folks. Let's respect the chocolate, okay? So chocolate first, not any of that corn syrup. So if that's what you're using right now, let's get away from that a little bit more, okay? So I'll get off my high horse about that. Sorry, guys. So then you also want to see like if it's a layer, you're going to want to see different layers in your truffle. So hang on, I got a truffle that I can show you on that. Let's see if I can get it here. All right, so this is our raspberry fig truffle, and you're gonna see two very distinct layers. We've got our raspberry jam, our preserves, and then we've got that ganache. You see how it's not oozing, it's holding its shape? That's very important. Plus now we have two textures too. So we have a soft jam filling and then the ganache that's a little bit firmer. And then we've got a surprise for you with those little fig seeds that are still in there. So we've got a multiple textures. There's 3 textures in this little tiny square of a dome, which is more or less like a 1-inch canvas to work on. So the more that you can put into it, the better, right? No, too much, is confusing. So keep it no more than 3. No more than 3 textures, no more than 3 colors, no more than 3 of anything. So that's really important. No more than 3 flavors too, guys, because chocolate's already a flavor, you know, so keep it kind of simple. All right, so there's an example of that. The texture itself can also be the shell, okay? So we've got a chocolate shell here, but then we've got an uneven texture on the bottom. Can you guys see that? So this texture here is a little confusing on the bite. This is the bottom, this is the upside down, so if I turn it, this is what you would normally see, and you put it in your mouth, but your tongue touches the bottom there. So it's not this smooth, shiny shell that you just had the view of, right? So it's a little confusing. This is an improperly capped or improperly backed truffle. So we don't want to see this typically, so that goes back to the beauty side of it. So another texture that you can have is things like nuts in there. It's really good to have nuts with throughout the ganache. We do that with our cherry almond. Another great texture is maybe like a cookie on the very bottom if you want to layer there. So lots and lots of things that you can do and play around in texture. All right, craftsmanship, guys. Oh, I can talk all day about craftsmanship. This shows how much you love your product. Do you think I love my product? Oh my gosh, I love chocolate. I'm insane about chocolate. So in fact, our motto, our mission is celebrate life through chocolate. That is what we do. I'm happy because I eat a lot of chocolate, guys. Lots of chocolate. I didn't get this body off of just anything, you know. So eat chocolate, enjoy your product, but make sure the world knows that you have that passion. And you can see that passion through what you do in your work. All right, so I've got some examples for you. So these are 2 shells, and we have the light color one is a properly done shell. It's nice and thin, and it's even all the way around, okay? Now this darker one, it's a dark chocolate, the shell is too thick. In fact, you can see, if you can zoom in on it, you can see some texture inside the shell as well, which comes from you can't get the chocolate out fast enough. So that is definitely a problem, and it makes it for a bigger, thicker bite, which kind of ruins your crust to crumb ratio. And yeah, I said crust to crumb. That is taken from the bread world. So crust to crumb is refers to the crumb, which is like the white stuff inside of a loaf of white bread or French bread. And it's like the fluffy stuff, right? Then the crust, you should know what that is. It has the Maillard reaction. I always say that word wrong, sorry French guys. Basically, it turns brown, right? It caramelizes, right? So that needs to be a nice, even, thin layer to a nice, fluffy crust, which is why our shells need to be thin, because we don't want to take away any of the wonderful attention off the ganache, because the shell is only there to protect the ganache flavors, because it's not quite as shelf stable, right? Whereas dark chocolate can last for years and years and years and be good. All right, so let me show you another craftsmanship error that we have. Okay, so this is near and dear to my heart. You're gonna hear me talk about it for the rest of my career like I've done. Temper. We have here, this one is out of temper. Both of these are dark chocolate, folks. This looks like milk chocolate. This looks like dark chocolate. They're identical. This is out of temper. This has got the nice shine that an in temper should be. So what is temper? It's the manipulation of fat crystals inside cocoa butter. So that gives us our shine, that gives us our strength, that gives us our shelf life, that gives us the viscosity we want to work with. It does so much for us. So when it turns like a white powdery look on top, which this one truffle has, then all of that, or some of the fats are actually migrating through tiny little micro holes through the chocolate and coming out and sitting on the top of the chocolate, which no good. No good at all, because that cocoa butter, that fat, can absorb flavor. So the next person who walks through with perfume on, guess what your chocolate's gonna taste like? The pure perfume. It's not gonna be good at all. Plus, you wanna keep all of those really good flavors inside, and they can't stay inside if the cocoa butter migrates out, right? So let's keep it inside, let's have proper temper. If you need to know what that is or how to do it, contact me, folks. I'll help you learn. All right, so here is another example of, here's that wonderful shell again. Craftsmanship. We have the improperly capped. Now capping is the finishing of the truffle on the bottom. Again, these are what the truffles should look like, but here's the bottom. Now a lot of people never even turn over the truffle, but to me, the bottom is just as important. So this is properly capped. You see how it's nice and shiny, and it has no air bubbles, it has no marks, no ganache coming through. Very important, guys. And it just finishes the whole thing. Plus it feels really good on your tongue too. So pretty important. Small details, guys, but we're talking about what makes for a great truffle, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, another detail for those people who dip. So we had some dip truffles over here, right? So if I were to put this guy on our plate here, don't worry, we're not gonna sell it because I touched it there. There's a problem with that, right? We can see that it's got what's called a foot. It's got extra chocolate around the base. Can you see that? It's not very pretty, and it's just gonna change our crust to crumb ratio. It's gonna give us too much chocolate for the ganache that's inside. So that's no good either. Plus, it just doesn't look as good. Personally, I don't like it. Does it taste good? Yeah, it just doesn't have the right ratio to it. All right, so just show craftsmanship. Get better. Even I'm a master chocolatier. I've been doing it for a long time. I teach it. I still can get better every day, and I find little ways to improve. All right, so let's talk about the fifth. Remember, there's 5, high 5, right? That's shelf life. Oh man, a chocolate does not get better with age, right? So we have to protect that flavor that we make so that we can deliver it to the customer. We can deliver it to you who bought it in the right flavor profile that we wanted, right? So a truffle that is made that day, oh gosh, some of the best things on the planet are made right then, right there. But we can't always be there inside the chocolate shop where I live, but where I spend all my days in the chocolate shop making chocolates, right? So we buy them, we take them home, we save them for a dinner party, that sort of thing. We want to make sure our jobs as chocolatiers and chocolate makers is to deliver that flavor when you want it. So fresh is good. Water level, guys, water activity, it's the AW value. Make sure that you look at your AW values, or if you don't have those calculations or those tables available to you, make a truffle, then wait a week, taste it. Did it change? Then wait a week, another week. So say make 12 truffles, eat one every other day. It's gonna change. It's gonna drastically change if your water levels are off. So just keep that in mind. Shelf life is paramount. You also can't have any cracks in your shells. You can't have any air bubbles in your shells because air has bacteria in it, right? And it has moisture in it, especially here in Washington. We have lots of moisture, so we have to make sure that it stays outside and not inside our truffle. Well, it will help grow mold and little nasty things we don't want in our chocolate. So shelf life, shelf life, shelf life. So hopefully I've answered a lot of questions for you. We are doing a special right now where we are giving away a free, or we're donating a chocolate bar to every, or let me restate, we're donating a chocolate bar to healthcare professionals for every order made on our website. So $25 or more, we donate a bar to all those folks, men and women, who are helping, keeping us safe, keeping us healthy, keeping us alive. They deserve to have a little happiness and joy and celebration in their life too. So if you want to place an order, awesome. If you want to just tag us and DM us. Instead, we will donate a couple truffles for every DM that we get from this video. We'll give it to some healthcare workers who are doing amazing jobs. So thank you so much, and please celebrate life through chocolate.